everybody, you've got Mo this week, and today I'll be telling you about my regrets from writing my first novel. Hi everybody, you've got Jen this week, and last time you saw one of us, Jenny told you all about all the things that she would have done differently when she started plotting and planning her manuscript. So today I'm going to follow along with that theme and tell you about my regrets in writing my first novel. My only novel. I'm going to talk about the things that I regret doing in planning, plotting, and writing my very first manuscript. So I'm going to break this up into pretty big thematic chunks. The first one I'm going to put under lack of preparation, just massively underestimating the work that was ahead of me. If you haven't seen any of our early videos, go check them out. I'm gonna reference them. So, as you already know, I was not the driver of the car, barely closing the passenger door before Jenny drove away with this idea. As a result, my ideas were built around a specific scene I wanted to write and literally nothing else. So I manufactured a plot around the scene. I manufactured a people with powers along the scene. I manufactured an antagonist around the scene, and I also manufactured a protagonist from this one scene. So as you can probably deduce, the beginning material was not strong to start with. And that reflected later on in the work, unfortunately. So when I'm talking about starting off with a rough idea, a very small idea, I had a lot of really open ends, which was great because I had a lot of freedom to write, but also not so great in the sense I made everything up on the fly. So very few things ended up connecting until I had to go back and make them connect. What I would have rather done is had a fuller idea of the events before and after and happening at the same time as the scene that I had created in my mind, but I didn't have that at the time. However, if you, a first-time novelist per se, are going to tackle this project, just have an idea of where you want your characters to start and end up. Not just one random plot point in the middle and nothing else. Try working a little bit further on that first before you just go and start plugging stuff into a 3-act story structure. Or, hey, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Take the training wheels off and freaking go. But it's your vehicle at that point. You can do whatever you want with it. I am just telling you, when you start off with a really, really small idea with very few things fleshed out, it shows and it's tedious, and you're probably gonna have to go back and rework a bunch of those things once you have a more full idea of what's going to happen. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. If you don't like doing work twice, spend a little more time on your templates. Let's go about it this direction. If you recall one of our early videos, you can see that I put a lot of work at the wrong point in time.
I had a scatter plot. I don't know why. I just really wanted to have a scatter plot, so it was really stupid.
I put a lot of work into writing those ideas in tandem while I was writing my manuscript, which I can honestly say was not the right call. Would I have had more fun not redoing my work? Yeah. Did I still enjoy myself? Absolutely. Do I still have a novel? Absolutely. Would it have been a little bit easier if I just made a little less work for myself? Sure. But these are all just like little mini regrets. These are like a single letter. That's from We're the Millers. Anyways, you know what? I'm just gonna move on. Okay, so that was one, our lack of preparedness, our lack of full ideas, our lack of just really understanding what it takes to write a novel, which is like totally okay, truly, because we're just doing this for the first time. And when we do it for the second time, we're gonna know a lot more. We cannot thrive before we live or learn. The second thematic thing that I wanna move on to is just starting with the proper tool. If you watched Jenny's video, which I hope you did, you can see that she would have liked to know more about the different templates that were available. We just used one specific way because it was easily palatable and easy to plug in the details to 15 defined story beats. So we worked with the tools that were very user-friendly. That being said, she regrets not knowing what was out there as far as story structures go. I regret trying to do everything on my computer from the very beginning. I'm a visual person. You'll see in my video what helped me was a lot of color coding and a lot of writing in different colors and fonts based on what I wanted to portray, based on what I actually want to say, or different colors on who the plot points are happening to during my story beat. And I see things that way in easily organizable chunks. So when I see it on a piece of paper and I've written it down, one, it sticks in my brain a little bit better, and two, I am going to be able to reference it a whole lot easier. I find a bunch of files in an organized fashion on my Google Drive isn't a bad way to go about things. However, for basic brainstorming ideas where it all goes and everything is being written on the page and you haven't quite decided what to write in your novel yet, I really, really found a lot of joy and helpfulness in writing it down in a physical notebook so that I can see the different things I had thought about, the different directions I wanted to go, and how my colors helped me figure that out. So I would say I definitely regret not moving to paper medium sooner, but that was also due to other factors as well, which we will get into later. So after I figured out just typing wasn't for me, I later then had a revelation that shouldn't probably be a revelation because of how natural it seems, but there's so many resources and avenues on the internet that, not even on the internet, just everywhere, that you could use that have useful, helpful tips on writing a novel. You could read literal books that tell you how to write a good novel, which I shouldn't be surprised at. You do have to be able to read a novel before you can write a novel. So, you know what? Let me have this existential crisis another time, and let's just bring it back. There's a book that I have found to be the most recommended on the internet, and it is called Save the Cat. It's written by Jessica Brody, and Jessica adapted it from a screenplay writer, Blake Snyder, who wrote a book called the same name, Save the Cat. And this book essentially takes 15 story beats and makes them easily applicable to any generic story arc or theme that you could possibly be writing about. So it really just tells you the story beats to add to your story that will make it a cohesive, easily digestible novel that gets your characters, your plot, whatever, from point A to point B, and has organized, natural story progressions in between. There are resources out there that are only going to help your writing style, that are only going to make things easier for you. I regret not looking for these things to help me earlier. If I had known this, I would have read this book before I even started writing my novel, but I didn't. And I'm here. And we're still at this point in the process, which is not bad. We're still having fun. All I'm saying is there's so many resources out there. Don't get pigeonholed into one specific source. Look for different places for information, because just like reading a novel and likes and preferences are personal to you, so is your writing style. And some story structures will go with that, and some will be harder for you to deal with based on how they're set up. This could not be for you, but it could be for you. Okay. Next, probably I'm gonna lump this under general laissez-faire attitude. A lack of commitment to the project would probably be enough. Just a very lackadaisical approach to my writing, I would say, would be definitely my third regret. So I alluded to some not so filled out templates earlier on because of the smaller ideas that I was working with, i.e. working from one scene and just expanding outwards. And I understand that's how you come up with your ideas, but maybe having a fuller sense of the ideas before we start really plugging that into the 3-act story structure would have helped me out. But the laissez-faire attitude to what I was doing really, it didn't motivate me to fill out my character profiles or fully fill out the content within my other templates as well, because I went at it with, well, nobody might see it and I can always fix it later, which allowed me the creative freedom to do whatever I wanted, which is what I needed at the time. But man, the more you fill out your character profiles, the more you fill out your 3-act story structure template, the more you fill out the pre-planning of the novel, and I cannot stress this enough, the easier it will be. Basically, I gave future Jenn a lot of problems. However, I did live, I did learn, and I'm thriving? I'm thriving. I'm thriving. Another thing that I found out with having a very lackadaisical approach to writing this was when I finally got to writing my manuscript, I took the don't look back attitude way too seriously. Literally to a T. To a point when I was writing a very difficult scene or a scene that I just wasn't into, or if I had lost just straight up a little bit of motivation, I would roll right through it. I would speed write just to get through whatever I was doing and not look back, just to get through it. But that means in the editing process, my work was littered with grammatical errors, spelling mistakes, parentheses in which I just decided not to describe something because I didn't have the time to describe a fantasy cabin in the woods for the 7th time in a row. And here's the thing, when you leave stuff to do for you later, that stuff stays and you move forward until you have to address it. And then you have to address it. You know, I learned a lot about myself, and I think that we should all take away from this is never to bring back spelling bees. And if we do, I'm never entering one. That's just not happening. I'd be a freaking embarrassment. Okay, so we wrote the manuscript. We didn't look back. I want to stress that attitude itself is not something I regret. The extremities at which I let it go to, that part, that's the part that I regret. Just running right through it and writing until I couldn't think of anything else anymore is not a bad way to go. Having grace with yourself is not a bad way to write this. It's really, really not. That actually kind of bleeds into my very final talking point. And the last one is just, I'm going to chalk it up to self-doubt. And when I first started writing this, I was a little bit embarrassed to talk about it because what's the first question people ask? Can I read it? No, it hasn't even had a beta reader yet. Obviously, you can't read the novel. Or what's the title? Don't know that either. There's a lot of things that I was just embarrassed to talk about because I didn't have everything hashed out for a very long time. And then on top of that, it's embarrassing to put yourself out there and go out on a limb and just be vulnerable and say, I did this cool thing. It might not be good. It might be good. It might have just been fun, but I did this cool thing that took a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it's done. And here's the thing. Every day, whether work or recreational reading, we read a myriad of good and bad and just wildly in between ideas. So whatever you write down is all progress. Even if you get one sentence down that day or 2 words, that's still 2 more words than you had the day before. And anything can be changed. Yeah, it might not be the most perfectly curated idea right now, but give it time, give yourself some grace, and just let it happen. And then when you read it back, I promise you, it's not as bad as you ever thought it was. I have a lot of regrets in attaching this idea that my novel had to be a perfect, well-written, interesting page turner right off the bat. I mean, that would be great, actually. But this is my first time for writing a book. If I didn't reach my word count that day, who cares? If I didn't finish the scene I wanted to finish that day, nothing happened. I still got up the next day. I still did my job. I still took care of my cats. I'm still here. It didn't seem realistic to me. It didn't seem like something that was in my skill set. And to say it is still bold. However, if you lose the part of you that second guesses everything you're doing, then all of your time is spent on just doing the thing you want to do. And once we got there, it was fabulous. And now I have a novel and rough plans for a second book and definite plotted endgame for a third book. So I can't say enough about just diving into the process. As much as a lot of my regrets are not having my visions, my tools, my mind fully prepped for this task, I still have 0 regrets in diving in and just starting it. Would I change anything? No. Would I do my second novel differently? Yes. And I did. And I learned from this experience. And now I think I understand why the second book is actually a lot better in a lot of trilogies. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Anyways, so I've just summarized a couple things that I would have totally done differently if I knew more, but I didn't know more. The only reason I have defined plans and processes that work is because I've gone through the processes that don't. And unfortunately, this is just a thing where you have to try stuff. And sometimes stuff isn't gonna work, and you will find the stuff that will work. And that's what I regretted. I've got a novel. It's not a bad feeling. I don't not recommend it. You know what? If you're like me in any way and you have fun little quirks and you have regrets that I haven't said, please share them. We could all learn together. We could all make our books better together. And that's the fun part. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of it. At the very least, I hope you got some ideas for yourself. Let me know if you have any regrets or missteps or funny stories or literally anything at all. This is fun. So let's have fun.